All right, welcome back. So in the last video, we were just talking about how we can subset data by the row and column number, which I've aptly labeled here. Okay, so that's easy enough, but this really only works when the data set's fairly organized, where there's exactly, there's an exact place where things change, which in this case, the first roughly half of the data are female and the last half are male, roughly. But what if it's all mixed? What if it's, not totally organized like that? This row by column would become a pain if we had to go through and count, and go, muscle. Okay, I want, okay, row or column one or row one, row five, that would get super annoying very quickly. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to do that. I want to do it by a condition. I want to do it when something equals something, okay? When, in this case, when sex equals male, okay? So let me go ahead and let me remove males because we're gonna remake that data set again. So I'm using the RM function in the console, and look at that, it's gone. Very cool. Now we have two ways. We have two methods. We have method one, which looks something like this. Now, I'm going to continue to call this new data set that I'm making, the subsetted data set, males. Okay, males. In fact, actually, maybe I'm not. Let me go like this. Let me call it males underscore one, just so we're a little bit more organized. Okay, and in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep each one in there, just so so we can kind of make some comparisons, just to double check, because we know that this one is right. The one with the row and column number subset. Okay. Now this method one, I'm gonna be candid. Pain in the ass. Pain in the butt. This is Liz living on the internet. It's a pain in the butt. I'm showing it to you because it's still used. If you're like Googling questions or whatever, Googling errors, sometimes people use this, and sometimes it's helpful. Which we'll see in just a second. But the second method I'm going to show you is a little bit easier. And then the third method is, I think, the best. But I'm showing you all the different ways to do it. Okay. So anyway, so this males underscore one, it's just going to be the same subset of males. I'm just calling it something different so we can make comparisons. It's going to get, and then this is where it gets a little different. Okay. So we're still going to be grabbing from the muscle data set, the kind of mother data set. And we're still going to be using the square bracket notation, okay? But we're going to be doing something slightly different. Now, if you recall, we came up here and we used this $ here to say, hey, actually, I just want to grab something from a specific column, okay? So the $ says, look inside the data set for something, for just the one column, okay? We're actually going to use that same idea here, okay? And that's going to look something like this. So again, put the old comma in there so we know that we're only grabbing, we need to specify at least two things in this case. And what we're going to do now is we're going to say, okay, within the rows, I want okay, what do I want? I'm subsetting by sex, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And what I want to do is say, well, when it equals male, when it equals M, okay, how am I going to do that? And this is a little bit, it's kind of funky. It's a little funky, but we're going to use the double equal sign here. It can't just be one equal sign. It's got to be two, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And this is why it's kind of a pain in the ass. But what are we going to put here in the quotation marks, right? Because we know that these are characters, right? At least they're being stored like that. We have it stored as a factor, but each little component in here is text essentially. And I just want the M's, right? Okay. So that means I just got to put in M. And look at that. And then what columns do I want? Well, I want all the columns. So I'm just going to leave that blank. Okay. That's easy enough. So if I were to then say, run that, whoa, look at that. Males underscore one, it's identical to the other one, to the first one, the one that we know is right. And just to double check, Let me run the summary on it and check it out. Let me put both of these right next to each other. They should be identical, and they are, which is great. We have some cons to this. The pro is like, this was kind of the standard a little while ago, but it's a little difficult to read. And you also have to remember, the row and the column kind of rule there. Just to show you, let's say that we just wanted females, and we'll just use the same rule. It's going to be the same. We grab from the mother, the mother data set, and we say, okay, still look within the column sex. So I'm just using the arrows here to kind of go up and down, hitting tab to make my life a little bit easier. And it's going to be the same thing, except instead of M, I want F. And then let me actually show you. So I forgot to put the comma here. And if I run this, what's going to happen? It's going to give me an error because it has an undefined column. I have the rows selected or specified, but I do not have the columns. So all I got to do is specify it with a blank space and nothing, okay? And if I run that, booyah, right? And we see here that it's just everything that the males aren't, right? We got 33 and plus 27 gets us back to 60, right? So we can be fairly certain that that's true, okay? Or at least that's correct. Cool. So that's an okay way of doing it. Again, not too readable. You got to remember the rule or whatever. What if we used a function? What if we used the subset function? So much easier, right? I think so. At least for right now, I do. The third method, I think, is the best. Okay. Anyway. So I'm going to call this new one males 2, whatever. It could be anything. I could name it. I could name it just dudes. No. I'm going to call it males, and I'm going to call it 2. And it's going to get, okay. Now, very similar to how we used the summary function. This is a function here because it's run on its own. I'm going to use you guessed it, the subset function. And check it out. So we have all of these different similarly named functions in here. Subset data frame, subset.default, blah, blah, blah. You can read about this on your own if you want, but I just want this one right here. So I'm going to type in the old parentheses. Now, just to note, I know we've been going back and forth between square brackets and parentheses here. Square brackets are used for when you're specifically grabbing rows and columns or certain kind of locations. Functions always use parentheses. Always. Okay, anyway. So if I hit tab, just like we did up here with the read.csv, gave us all the options. I actually do want to do that this time. And check it out. It's actually only 2 things, okay? So if I hit x equals, check it out. It says x is the object to be subsetted. Well, that's easy. So I select that and I say, okay, I want to subset the muscle data set. Okay, easy enough, but this is only a little bit specific. Recall that when we are coding in R, sometimes we can get away with saying the bare minimum, right? Like we do up here. This is the bare minimum, okay? We only need to put in the data set for this function. In this case, we don't have enough information. So if I were to just run this single line, it's just not going to do anything. It's not a single thing. It's not going to subset. It's just going to spit out the whole data set back. Okay, so not cool. In fact, if I save that, it's the same. Males 2, 60 observations with 3 variables, no go, right? Not good. So what we need to do next is we need to specify another thing within the function. I'm going to use a comma here to separate the 2 arguments, okay? And if I use tab, magically, some new options pop up, okay? So we have subset, select, and drop, okay? We don't care about these 2. We actually just care about subsetting. So the subset equals, and let me go back here. So I hover over this. A logical expression indicating elements or rows to keep. Missing values are taken as false, blah, 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 whatever. So we're just going to go ahead and use this. Okay. And this is where we have to kind of go between this sort of notation and kind of this notation. All right. It gets a little funky, and this is why I'm not too keen on this either. Because but I'm still showing you. Okay. So we have X is the data frame, and then we have subset, and we just need to specify, well, we just need to specify the sex, right? So when sex equals, we know that we need to use 2 of these, male, and that's that. This is kind of funky because we have a single equal sign here and a double equal sign here. This is just saying that this argument gets whatever is specified here, but we still need to keep, this type of notation there. Okay, a little funky, but this works. Okay, so if I run this, males 2. Also notice, keep your eye over here. I'm renaming it something. So this males underscore 2 already exists. I'm going to but I'm just going to kind of, what's it called? I'm going to redo what's in here. So keep an eye on that. Watch it change. Boop. So it goes down back to 27, right? So already we see that these 3 are likely identical, at least by observation numbers. So we'll go ahead and run the old summary on that, just to double check. And yes, it's the same as the other ones, which is great. Easy as that. This gets a little funky, but let me also show you female. I'm going to just call this the same thing. Females 2 subset. Okay, so again, I just want the data set that I'm working with. No need to use the $ this time because we've already specified the data set with this function. Pretty cool. And then we're just going to do, instead of M, we're going to do capital F. If I were to do lowercase f, there are no lowercase f's in there. Female 2, 0 observations of 3 variables. If I click on that, there's nothing in there, right? Because it just subsetted something that doesn't exist. So it just filtered out every single thing. Okay, so that's one thing you want to make sure that you get straight. Okay, and we see that that's the same as the female one. Oh man, so much work. But I guess we just made like $20,000 by doing it a bunch of different ways. Now, there is one more way, and I'm going to pause the video just because this is where the class really starts. I know that we've been doing kind of this base R stuff, and this all works, right? This is all fine. But the next method we're going to use uses the tidyverse, and I'm going to make a new video for that just to show you kind of how to get that all set up for you. And I will see you next time.